Bodhi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you for taking the time out of your life. I know it's an afternoon where you are, and I just appreciate taking a chunk of your afternoon, honestly.
No, thank you for taking the time to have a chat with us. So I'm super excited. So as far as I know, Homie and the Dude are the only father and son tabletop creators I know out there. So can you take me back to the beginning for the start of our chat here? Who got who into this hobby?
Great question. So originally I played D&D when I was 13 years old with my drama teacher in an after-school club. He had a campaign that he ran, and there was like a D&D society, and so, I was part of that for a little bit. However, I suck at maths, so I didn't enjoy making a character for 3.5, which took me a whole afternoon worth of time because all the maths was ridiculous. And so I played very little at that point. Cut to COVID. And Tom happens to be trolling around looking at stuff, and he finds Acquisition Incorporated's live shows that they do at PAX. The OG ones with Patrick Rothfuss and Mike Krahulik and Jerry Holkins and Chris Perkins at the helm, all those guys. And he shows it to me, and we're both transfixed by the fact that, everyone's like, green flame, and, everyone's, shouting, and, Chris Perkins is being the most incredible GM because he just says yes to whatever the hell they say. Patrick Rothfuss is always swinging on chandeliers. Jerry Holkins is rules loring his way through life. It was just an amazing thing to witness, and we both fell in love with it. So got the starter pack within a month of that. I learned it. And this was the Lost Mines of Phandelver one. I learned the whole thing, and then we ran it. It was terrible. I realized that I was not made for running modules. That was not my preferred. Running adventures was not my preferred way of going about it. So I then homebrewed my first world, which was the Sky Realm, which inspired Sky Zephyrs, the first book that we wrote. And so, yeah, dude, we just got into it because we saw it and we fell in love with it. We were just like, wow, we've never seen people tell stories in this kind of way. This is such an incredible vessel for storytelling. We just fell in love with it. That's straight up it.
Wow, that's so cool. I have follow-ups, and I think I'm going to have to bring you back in the future so we can do a real deep dive on how this all started for you. Because today we're here for a very quick dip into the Scorched Basin here. The Kickstarter is happening right now. It's a really cool setting. So Dune crossed with Mad Max. Can you break down the setting for anyone who doesn't know about it yet?
Yeah, so it is a desert-based TTRPG setting that is system-agnostic, so you can play it with Daggerheart, Shadow Dark, D&D, Call of Cthulhu, whatever your preferred system is. It works for all of them. All of the stats and information in it is very easily convertible. You could do it before a session or during a session even. It's pretty easy to understand once you've read the introduction to the book. Within the book, you'll find 6 desert terrains, weather mechanics, 5 competing factions that are fighting over the resources of the basin. You'll find land vehicles with mechanics for how to run that. You'll find a bunch of player options, alchemy mechanics, 3 languages, one based on ASL, another based on Morse code, and just a whole manner of stuff. We've tried to cram so much into this to make it a really immersive experience for GMs and players. And we've also tried to give GMs tools that kind of innovate in the TTRPG space. So we've got voiceovers from incredible creators out in the space, and we're putting QR codes next to NPCs so people can kind of get a frame of reference of what an NPC might sound like. We're going to have soundtrack running throughout the book. We're going to have, recipes that you can make that are culturally accurate to the factions, but you can also then cook them for your D&D table. We really just wanted to make this book a whole experience more than just, the standard. The map is really nice. The setting, whatever. Take or leave it.
So there's so much going on in this setting. So a couple of bits and pieces for us to take a look at here. So you've got 5 unique factions. So let's rapid fire around these. What are they? And give me a short description of what they're all about. So let's start with Skara.
First of all, at the end of it, I want to hear which one you think is your favorite out of them all. Okay, so Skara are a tribe of warriors that live close to the basin wall in a small village that they've made. They're kind of, think Conan the Barbarian mixed with Roman, like centurion kind of vibe, basically. And they're predominantly women. About like 70% or so of their society is women, and then you have like a very small proportion of men that are kind of kept around mainly for doing village chores and breeding. And the women are these incredible warriors that go out and hunt, and they've invented their own unique fighting styles. Their whole hierarchy is based off of strength and battle. So like if you want to be the chief, you have to challenge the chief to open combat. And you and the chief can then fight, and if you win, then you become chief, that kind of vibe. And their culture is just really full. It's like they love parties, so they love like having feasts and celebrating and, you know, drinking, and they love community, and they love fighting. And as an MMA fan, they were one of my favorites to make all around. I really enjoyed making their unique fighting style and all that good stuff.
Unsettled.
So, the Unsettled are kind of like your Fremen-inspired characters from Dune. They are these nomadic people that roam the desert trying to maintain the natural balance of this location, basically. So, they are these kind of very spiritual beings that inhale this active crystal dust, which are these like special crystals that are dotted around the basin. They inhale it, and it gives them this ability to enter something called the current, which is a frequency-based magic system where people who are in the current can see the waves within all things and then actually go and manipulate those waves to create magical effects. So they're basically these badass nomads that roam the basin, never have to sleep, never have to eat, never have to drink, and essentially just try and maintain balance. And if you don't mess with them, they're not going to mess with you. But if you do cross them, well, they don't eat, sleep, and drink, so they're just going to keep going until you stop or they stop, and that's what it is, essentially. But there's deep lore in their spirituality of, like, you know, they believe in the sun and moon gods and all this stuff, and they have their language is the sign language that I mentioned earlier. It's the ASL-based sign language that was designed to be used with one hand, so they can still do magic and communicate simultaneously and things like that. And also, you know, we wanted to include some accessibility in the book as well, because we thought, what a great time to teach people some sign language than at the TTRPG table, where it can be fun and included in a game. And who knows, maybe if they encounter someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, they might be able to actually communicate with someone like that. So we wanted to just spread some accessibility there and things like that. But yeah, the Unsettled are easily like one of my favorite tribes across the board, and I really enjoyed making their magic system, the current, and all the manipulations that they have in that. That was one of my favorite things to do in the book, for sure.
Riders next.
So the Riders are your war boys from Mad Max. They're these crazy, maniacal chaos creatures that are essentially an exceedingly religious sect of surface dwellers that believe that speed is their god and going fast is how they achieve nirvana, basically, and how they achieve like enlightenment in their mind. So they don't realize that just going at crazy speeds with adrenaline and crazy endorphins means that they're just redlining, and they just are hitting like natural body highs that they seem to believe are very spiritual. They build these incredible things called bashers, which are like these Mad Max style rustic metal spikes, you know, vehicles that they tear around the basin in, and they hunt stuff in. And they love doing races. A big thing in their culture is racing each other. So actually, to decide their hierarchy, they have a giant race that goes around the entire basin once a year, and whoever wins that race becomes the king for the next year, and then the resources are distributed amongst the people based on your ranking in that race, basically. They're absolutely wild. They, you know, for a lot of their player features and abilities, as an actual player, you have to shout. Actually, to activate your abilities, you have to give like a wail, or, you know, give some sort of enthusiastic shout at your table to activate your abilities and things like that. So we really just wanted to make it a fun experience to interact with these guys. You know, they love, again, celebrating. They have wild, like, bonfire parties in their convoys, and yeah, they're just crazy. They're absolutely wild, and some of the funnest people to play, for sure.
Kai Dynasty.
So the Kai dynasty are like technically the root of all of the surface dwellers. So originally the surface dwellers were a single group of people, and they split then into the riders and the Kai. Half of the people wanted to stay in the desert following the speed, and the other half wanted to go find shelter and use this water resource that is where the Kai bastion is, basically. The Kai dynasty are these regally corrupted socialites that live in the basin wall and never basically leave. Their whole culture is based on how creative you are and how innovative you are, and how, like, you know, if you can create the next trend, then you're someone who's got a lot of social points, which means you go up in the hierarchy and you're more important in society. And so people like plumbers and stuff like that are very low on the spectrum, but people like artists and, you know, thespians and poets and things like that are considered like the great of the greats in there. They have the most technology out of everyone. Also, they have the only consistent water source in the whole basin, so they're able to farm and provide water. So they have an alliance with the riders, where the riders bring them crystal, they give the riders water and food. So there's you know, all this kind of these machinations going on, but they're a super interesting people. There's lots of corruption in of that, you know, the people who are the military force in the bastion are almost forced to do certain things. They get their tongues cut and branded when they become these knights, so they lose the ability to talk and have to use like automated voice lines to communicate. There's just lots of sinister stuff going on in here, but on the surface, you're like, wow, look at this beautifully regal community where everyone dresses like, think the capital from Hunger Games mixed with like the Bene Gesserit from Dune. That kind of mash of like, of culture and I guess like clothing and that kind of stuff.
And then final one of the 5, Doflok.
So the Doflok are essentially, originally Doflok was the down folk, was what they were originally called, because they became subsurface dwellers when the whole explosion happened. And slowly over time, it's gone from down folk to Doflok and combined into the name. But there are these creatures that, you know, that were originally, you know, beings on the surface that have changed and evolved into essentially these little like Dobby mixed with Schmeagol looking creatures with giant ears that are sightless. They use sounds and frequencies to navigate their space. They're actually the ancestors of the unsettled, hence the frequency magic that they have. And they basically speak in these rhythmic tunes that let you know what their emotion is. They are just these really beautiful, wholesome creatures who are struggling to survive under the surface. They have the biggest population, and some of the most beautiful landscape is this underground kind of citadel that they have inhabited and kind of made. But their culture is really diverse, really deep, and there's some layers of tension going on between the higher-ups and a rebel force that's beginning to emerge, basically, within the faction.
Amazing. Wow. If that doesn't pique your interest about this campaign setting, I don't know what will. You asked me what my favorite one of these factions are, and Bodhi, come on, I'm Australian. You know the answer. It's going to be the Riders. Anything Mad Max inspired, okay. I'm gonna lock in. It's a cultural thing. And speaking of that, tell me about the vehicles. This is using some of your own guys, your own special vehicle rules, yeah?
Yes. So Arlentric.
Never heard of him.
Who's that bastard? He actually came on and did some writing for us and worked on the land vehicle mechanics with me. We took what we had in Sky Zephyrs and we converted it to system-agnostic and made it work for land vehicles, basically. It's an awesome system that we streamlined much more from what it originally was. It's a lot of fun to actually play, and it allows for both cinematic style of play or crunchy turn-based play, dependent on what your preferred style is as a GM or your table's preferred style. But yeah, it's essentially each vehicle is built up of a bunch of different parts and stations, so you can custom build vehicles if you want and construct these weird, maniacal, crazy creations if you so please. But we also give you guys, I think we're giving 5 or 6 in the book that come with the book, pre-made vehicles. And each part in the station can be manned by creatures. So it might be like, a helm. It might be, like a weapon that they're firing. It might be something that's like a utility thing that's helping other creatures. But essentially, they exist on this vehicle, and they can then operate various different things as they tear around the basin, causing chaos and getting into fights, entering races, trying to just be awesome and do 6 stunts and, maybe try and go to the northern source of crystal and not get attacked by a dune eater, a massive sandworm. But we wanted to make the vehicles specifically super rustic, super covered in spikes, very you can see made from scrap, and also a few different ones. So we've got a few standard vehicles, but there's things like what we call the one-wheeler, which looks like a single halo wheel basically. We wanted to just make these vehicles fun, a little bit different, and a little bit unique. So yeah, that's a little bit about the vehicles.
So this is a very short dip into the Scorched Basin. It's live on Kickstarter right now. You can go over and back. But the Scorched Basin Kickstarter ends on Thursday, the 9th of October, 2025, and the link is in the description. Bodhi, thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to find out more from you guys, where should they go?
So yes, we are Homie and the Dude pretty much everywhere. You can find our website. You can check us out on Kickstarter. We also have a YouTube channel, and we're going to be releasing a good few more bits over there very soon. We've just started releasing some comedy skits in our shorts. So if you're interested in seeing kind of a little bit more about my personality, Tom's personality, who we are as people, then that's actually a really good place to start, as opposed to, going looking at, words on a Kickstarter page or something like that. If you want to get to know us, check out the YouTube channel and things like that.
Well, again, thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
Appreciate you, dude.